എങ്കിലും കപടഭക്തൻ ഭൗതിക നേട്ടങ്ങളിൽ നിന്നും നിർമുക്തനാകാനും ശ്രീമദ് ഭാഗവതം നിത്യം ശ്രവിക്കാനുമുള്ള യാതൊരുവിധ ഗൗരവപൂർണമായ ഉദ്യമവും കൂടാതെ അവന്റെ വ്യാമോഹങ്ങൾക്ക് തദനുസാരേണ ഭഗവാനെ ദർശിക്കുവാൻ അത്യന്തം ഉത്സുകനാണ്. ശ്രീമദ് ഭാഗവത ശ്രവണത്തിലൂടെ മോക്ഷം പ്രാപ്തമാക്കിയ പരീക്ഷിത് മഹാരാജാവിനെ പോലൊരു പ്രാമാണികന് നിർദ്ദേശിക്കപ്പെട്ട രീതി അതല്ല.
Om Jnanatimirandhasya Jnananjanashalakaya Chakshurmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namah. Shri Chaitanya Manobhishtam Sthapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamahyam Dadati Swapadantikam Vandeham Shri Guroho Shri Yutaparikamalam Shri Gurun Vaishnavamscha Shri Rupam Sagrijatam Sahaganagunatham Vitam Tam Sajivam Sadvaitam Savadhutam Parijana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padan Sahaganavadata Shri Vishakhan Vitamscha. He Krishna Karuna Sindho Dinabandho Jagatpate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namostate Tapta Kanchana Gaurangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Rishabhanu Sute Devi Pranamami Hertriye Vancha kalpatarubhyascha kripa sindhubhya evcha patitanam bhavanebhyo vaishnavebhyo namo namah. Jaya Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shivasadi Gaur Bhakta Vrinda. Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna. Prabhu മുന്നേ വന്നിട്ടുണ്ടായിരുന്നു. അറിയാത്തവർക്കായി വീണ്ടും പറയാം. പ്രഭുപാദ ഡിസൈപ്പിളാണ്. ഹിസ്റ്ററി ഈസ് മുകുന്ദത്ത പ്രഭു. അദ്ദേഹം 50 വർഷമായി ഇസ്കോണിലുള്ള പ്രഭുവാണ്. സീനിയർ ഡിവോട്ടിയാണ്. അപ്പോൾ അദ്ദേഹം വന്നിരിക്കുന്നത് ഒരു റിസർച്ചിന് വേണ്ടിയാണ് അദ്ദേഹം വന്നിരിക്കുന്നത്. ഗുരുവായൂരിനെ കുറിച്ചുള്ള ഹിസ്റ്ററി എഴുതാനും അത് ഇംഗ്ലീഷിൽ പ്രഭുപാദിന്റെ ട്രാൻസ്ലേഷൻ പർപ്പസ് വെച്ച് കോട്ട് ചെയ്ത് എഴുതാൻ വേണ്ടിയിട്ടാണ് അദ്ദേഹം ഗുരുവായൂരിലേക്ക് വന്നിരിക്കുന്നത്. സോ ഇന്നൊരു നമുക്ക് വലിയൊരു ഭാഗ്യമാണ് പ്രഭുപാദിന്റെ ഡിസൈപ്പിളിന്റെ ക്ലാസ് കേൾക്കാനും അദ്ദേഹത്തിന്റെ എക്സ്പീരിയൻസ് നമുക്ക് ഷെയർ ചെയ്യാനും ഒരു ഭാഗ്യം നമുക്കുണ്ട്. പ്രഭു ഇംഗ്ലീഷിലാണ് എടുക്കാം. അത് സമ്മറൈസ് ചെയ്തിട്ട് അവസാനം മലയാളത്തിൽ പറയുന്നതായിരിക്കും. ഇവിടെ ഒട്ടുമിക്ക എല്ലാവർക്കും ഇംഗ്ലീഷ് അറിയാം. ഇല്ലാത്തവർക്കായിട്ട് സമ്മറൈസ് ചെയ്ത് മലയാളത്തിൽ അവസാനം ക്ലാസിന്റെ അവസാനം മലയാളത്തിൽ പറയുന്നതായിരിക്കും. അപ്പോൾ എല്ലാവരും ഈ അവസരം മാക്സിമം യൂട്ടിലൈസ് ചെയ്യുക. ഹരേ കൃഷ്ണ.
Madgaviravi Gopala Swikuryat Kripayayavi Tadaivasam Payahapitva Rishi Yustatriyajanaha. Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur prays, my dear Lord Gopal, only if you accept my words as your cows will they give sweet milk to provide pleasure for your pure devotees. I'm not going to translate.
Later, everything they've summarized.
Achha, okay. So here we have a very important verse from the Bhagavatam, and it's a very instructive one, that all we have to do is very seriously try to hear something. That's the first duty we have in Krishna consciousness. Sthane sthitaha shrutikatam tunavam manobhi. Chaitanya Mahaprabhu from Srimad Bhagavatam quotes that you can stay in your position, there's no need to adopt an extreme position, but you have to hear something and seriously hear. So seriously hearing is defined here by Srila Prabhupada in its purport. Well, really the verse itself defines it. Shindatam shraddhaya nityam grinatascha swacheshtitam. These are the qualifications. Your hearing has to be with faith. You have to believe what you hear fully. And you have to hear nityam, means at least regularly, but preferably constantly. And then finally, granatascha swacheshtitam. And whatever you hear, you have to apply that in your practical activities. Or your own endeavor has to be to hear that, embracing what it is. So, taking the matter seriously. If these conditions are met, then kalina, Na ati dirghena Bhagavan vishite hridi. Bhagavan will enter your heart. It says Bhagavan will enter your heart because Paramatma is already within your heart, but Bhagavan not necessarily within your heart. You know the difference? Brahmeti Paramatmeti Bhagavaniti Shabdyate. Bhagavatam tells us there are three forms of the absolute truth. The all-pervading, ineffable absolute is called Brahman, spiritual reality in a general, abstract sense. Then when that Brahman is localized as the indwelling supervisor and witness of all of our activities, Antaryami, then he's called Paramatma. He's already within our hearts. Bhagavan is the ultimate representation of the absolute truth. He personifies eternity, knowledge, and bliss. And that Bhagavan is not necessarily within our hearts because we have not invited him into our hearts. Neither have we made our hearts a very suitable place for him to sit. So this is why we have to hear with faith and we have to apply what we hear in our daily activities. Srila Prabhupada was always very adamant about this point that we have to hear with rapt attention. And he also said that hearing which stops when the pravachana stops, that's not really hearing. Hearing has to go on. Shravanam, mananam, nididhyasanam. And we have to apply what we've heard. Or we have to apply what we've heard by repeating what we've heard. Either way, because both instructions are there. This is the austerity of knowledge. It's very hard to take notes on my classes. But Ramanujacharya says in his commentary on Bhagavad Gita, well, Krishna says, chapter 4, text number 10. You know that verse? Bhagavad Gita 4:10. Vita raga bhaya krodha mana mamupashata bahavo jnana tapasa puta madbhavam agataha. We have to become free from attachment, from fear, and from frustration. These are the three things. If we are so purified, then through the austerity of knowledge, we will gain bhava bhakti, feeling for the Supreme Lord. Srimad Bhagavatam is the ripened fruit of all Vedic literatures. Nigama kalpataroho galitam phalam, shukha mukhad amrita drava sanyutam. So, pibata bhagavatam rasam alayan muhuraho rasika bhuvi bhavakaha. Two kinds of persons the Bhagavatam addresses. One is the person who's super sensitive to aesthetic things. He understands beauty. He understands rasa. That's one kind of person. He's called rasika. And the other one is who has very sensitive heart. He loves bhavuka, that person. So these are the necessities that we have if we're to enter into the mysteries of Srimad Bhagavatam. Why should we enter into the mysteries of Srimad Bhagavatam? Everything is there in Bhagavad Gita, but everything is in Bhagavad Gita in very general form, basic form. Expanded Bhagavad Gita would be Srimad Bhagavatam. And Krishna talks about love of God in many places in Bhagavad Gita, but he really unpacks what that love is in Srimad Bhagavatam. So hearing Srimad Bhagavatam is, well, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu said, Srimad Bhagavatam Pramanam Amalam, or Puranam Amalam, both readings, Prema Pumartha Mahan, above the Chaturvidhu Purusharthas, Dharma, Artha, Kama, Moksha, we have something else. What is that? Prema. Prema Pumartha Mahan. So the bhava that Krishna mentions in Bhagavad Gita chapter 4, that is possible when our intelligence is purified, when our minds are purified, when our bodies are purified. And the symptom of that purification, no more attachment to this material world, no more fear of our spiritual identity, which we think will threaten our material sense gratification, and no more frustration over the contradictions that we see, over the hypocrisy that we see, over all the failings that we have. We get angry about these things. And we just, people sometimes they give up the process out of these anarthas. So Krishna says when we are free from these three things, attachment, fear, and anger, then we can actually be purified by knowledge. Knowledge purifies us. How does knowledge purify us? 3 ways, Ramanuja says. First, you have to take the trouble to acquire knowledge. We make that joke. Bhagavad Gita, as it is. No, you have to open it up. You can't just leave it as it is. You have to unwrap the thing, and you have to open the book, and you have to endeavor a little bit to read it, understand it. That's the first austerity of knowledge. And that's mentioned in the first line of today's verse. Shrindatam Shraddhaya Nityam. Then the second austerity of knowledge, you actually have to apply that knowledge, because when you read in Srila Prabhupada's books, do not eat meat, then you have to make a decision, don't you? Especially if you're in Trishur. So, what are you going to do about it? It's a choice. It's not knowledge, it's a choice. So, Granatascha Swacheshtitam. In your every daily effort, you have to try to apply this teaching, and that's difficult. Many people would rather not do that. That's why people take to impersonalism in the first place. No authority. Chutti, we say in Hindi. So, that's the secondary austerity of knowledge. And the tertiary austerity of knowledge, having acquired knowledge and assimilated that knowledge and having applied it in your daily life, you've got some realization now. How are you going to communicate that to the person on the street who hasn't even taken up step number 1? How are you going to do that? Chaitanya Mahaprabhu was given an instruction. Bharata bhumite hoilo manushya janma jar janma shartha kori karo parupakar. Make your life perfect and do something for humanity while you have this chance. How do you do something? Well, how do you serve humanity? Karo parupakar. He says, Jare dekho tare kaha Krishna upadesh. Amar ajnai guru hai tare desh. You acquire this knowledge, you assimilate and apply this knowledge, you realize it thereby, and then you share it with someone else. And that's difficult because people already know everything here, isn't it? We know Bhagavad Gita, we know everything. No, we don't need this. Bhagavatam, we know also. Nanayam. So that's the austerity, threefold austerity. Acquire knowledge, apply the knowledge, induce others to do the same thing. And they don't want to be induced. When your alarm clock rings too early in the morning, you don't want to wake up. It's an austerity. So if we adopt this threefold austerity of knowledge by hearing, mainly, it starts with hearing. That's why Mahaprabhu said, Sthani sthita shrutigatam tanuvam manobhi. And if we thereby become freed from our attachments, from our fears, from our frustrations, then we can actually attain bhava bhakti. And yaswanu bhavam akhila shruti saramekam. This Bhagavatam consists of nothing but the personal experience of Shukadeva Goswami, personal experience, sakshat, aparokshara brahmanubhuti, we call this in Vedantic terms. Direct experience. not mediated by anything or anyone else. So that experience, to share it with someone else, this is why we exist in this world as human beings. And it's certainly why we exist in the movement of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, because that is his purpose. Yajnaihi sankirtana praya yajantihi sumeta saha. Those who are intelligent take up this process of Krishna sankirtana. Sankirtana, samyak kirtaniti sankirtana. Complete kirtan, full kirtan, means not just chanting with the drums and cymbals, and not just chanting the names, but kirtigana as well, and awakening someone else. I don't know how we say santvayam, santvayam also in Sanskrit, or samachana in Hindi, trying to preach to someone. That's why we exist as servants in the movement of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. So, Granatascha swacheshtitam, shundayam shrathaya nityam, adau shraddha, tata sadhu sangatha bhajana kriya, tato anartha nivritti syat. Rupa Goswami outlines 8 stages in his Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu that we can gauge our process. Where do I stand? Am I at the stage where I just have some preliminary faith? Or have I actually embraced the association of the devotees in this way? Shraddhaya, Granatha? Or have I actually gone further than that and I'm engaged in Bhajana Kriya? And engaging in Bhajana Kriya, have my anarthas actually reduced or gone altogether? You have to judge, because after anartha nivritti, what happens? Nishtha, you become fixed, strong, nobody can budge you, at least not easily. And then, when you're nishtha, you get some ruchi, real taste, not the preliminary taste, not the teaser. What do they say in movies? Trailers. Not that kind of taste. Real taste, substantial taste. Taste that allows you to say no when sense gratification offers itself, which it will. Every one of us has that experience already. Sometimes we fail, sometimes we don't. That's because we're anishtha. But when you're nishtha, everything is strong. And then you get the taste. That taste is so attractive that it becomes an addiction. Asakti. Asakti syat. And asakti matures into some real feeling for the Supreme Lord. That's called bhava. So we've come full circle. Krishna has said the same thing by eliminating attachment, fear, and anger, and by practicing this austerity of knowledge. Here we have the same effect by hearing with faith, applying what we've heard, nityam, all the time, at least regularly, daily. And then, what is coming? Kalena nadi dirghena, in not a very long time, we think, I've been chanting Hare Krishna for 6 months now and I still haven't seen Bhagavan, so this process doesn't work. No, it takes time. Kalena. Parantu nati dirghena. Not too long. Ati dirghena means, how long did Vasudevan, I want to say, Sutapa and Krishni, how long did they engage in austerities before they could see Guru Vairapa? You tell me. 10,000 demigod years. That's the first thing. Then they got another birth as whom? First, he took birth as the son of Sutapa Prishni. That's called Prishni Garpa. And they worshiped Guru Vairapa in that incarnation. Then they took birth again as, who are Vamana's parents? Oh, come on. Kashyapa. And? Yes. And Boy was Vamana, but they also had the same deity. Then finally they took their final birth, third birth, as Lord predicted, as Vasudeva and Devaki. And in each of these births, they executed austerities for a long time. And we're thinking that it's been 2 weeks now and I still haven't seen Bhagavan. It doesn't work like that. One devotee in the previous century said, everybody goes to Vrindavan and expects to see Krishna hiding behind some bush somewhere. But before you can see that Krishna, you have to see what the Mukunda Upanishad describes the absolute truth to be. Now, what is that? Like an upraised thunderbolt ready to strike you dead. Because the false ego is what has to die. We don't die. The false ego dies. What we aren't, that has to be killed. What we are has to be nourished. And that's difficult. That's part of this austerity of knowledge that we've been discussing. So if we're prepared to do that, then it's not so long time. Prabhupada said, Srila Prabhupada told us, he promised us, in one lifetime, if you chant these Hare Krishna 16 names, and you follow the regulative principles, you chant 16 rounds and follow this process sincerely, then you will go back to Godhead. One life. It's not a long time. So, Bhagavan Vishite Hridi. Then you will see Bhagavan within your heart. And Bhagavan means Sri Krishna himself. Not Chaturbhuja Narayana, just Paramatma, but Bhagavan himself, Krishna. The way that Lord Shiva describes him in Rudra Gita, having beautiful lotus eyes, Kallachiri smile, and beautiful yellow cloth, and all you can read it yourself. Rudra Gita. You probably already do read it. So this is the benefit of hearing, and we have to hear, as we said, nityam every day, at least every day, but preferably all day long. These little red boxes, have you seen them with all of Prabhupada's lectures? So my godbrother has one of those. He said, if he's not doing some work that requires his focused concentration, then he listens to that thing all day long. And if you listen to the Prabhupada lectures or Prabhupada conversations all day long, it's like by the end of the day, you've had 3 or 4 hours at least association with Srila Prabhupada. Every day if you're associating with Srila Prabhupada for 3 or 4 hours, what do you think that's going to do to your life? It will radically change your life. Your whole perspective will change. Your heart will change. This is the intended effect of hearing. So that's why we have to hear all the time, but at least every day. It's difficult. What happened? Because things happen. The last 2 or 3 days, I'm running all over the state of Kerala looking for, checking government offices and, manuscript sangrahalayas, and, it's very difficult. This is my policy. Because life is not predictable and life can throw things at you that you don't plan on, what do you do if you cannot read? Because sometimes it happens. When I wake up the first thing in the morning, and you have to wake up early, and what that means is that you have to go to bed early. You can't eat dinner at 10 o'clock and expect to get up at 4 a.m. It's not going to work. So wake up early, first thing I read, first thing. Don't do anything else. Just first of all, at least connect with Srila Prabhupada for even one purport. There is so much in one purport. You cannot take notes like she's doing. Not possible. There's so much there. If you read very attentively, slowly, with faith and concentration, dhyana. What does dhyana mean? Focus. Like a magnifying glass. The sun's kirana, they're dissipated throughout the entire atmosphere. But what happens when you take a magnifying glass? It concentrates all those rays on one spot. And if you point it at something that has adhikar to burn, then you can start a fire and burn down half the state of California. I don't think you can burn down Kerala because it's too green here. But It's powerful. The power of focus, and that means dhyana. You have to read and you have to be very meditative. What I do is I read out loud and I give at least 1 or 2 seconds in between each sentence. If you do like that, then you will find one purport is far too much for you to ingest all at once. It's a fact. These books are very, very powerful. Srila Prabhupada said he wrote these books. We saw him. He had such constant, he was in samadhi when he was writing these books, totally focused on what he's doing. And he said he chose each and every single word very carefully to have its intended effect, which is why we have to be careful not to tamper with those books, as some want to do. So when we hear like this, and hear it like this daily, then we begin to advance. It is a fact. We will advance. Now, in first canto, chapter 2, text number 15 and 16, this is something you want to note down. Sridhar Swami raises the question, oh, well, what happens if I don't have a taste for hearing? Because it's understood, none of us have a real taste for hearing. That's why we go to the professional men who are going to entertain us. What do we call that in English? Infotainment. Infotainment. It's information, but it's, it has to be entertaining. I live in Vrindavan. We see it all the time there. These people come and they're giving, Bhagavata Saptahas and Mahagyan, Yajna, and all these things they're doing. Sangeetamai. Just to make it very attractive for the common man. And people come from Delhi and they listen to these things just for entertainment. And they have to have their tears, otherwise they're going to want their money back. If the speaker can't make them cry, then they're not satisfied with that. It's entertainment only. It's not serious hearing. What does Prabhupada say in his purport? He talks about, making a serious effort to hear. A serious effort to hear. Serious effort. So this is what's required. And if we have trouble with this, Sridhar Swami says there's a key. If you haven't memorized 1.2.15 yet, then you can look it up. But if you have memorized it, then you're very intelligent. And the very next verse, Sridhar Swami says, answers the question, what happens if I don't have a taste for hearing? Do you know this verse offhand? Thank you. I'll give you a hint. Shushrusho Shradhanasya Vasudeva Katharuchi Syan Mahat Sevaya Vipra Punyatirthanishevanat. He says, by service to those sinless persons, the devotees who are free from any trace of sense gratification, pure devotees, then you gain a taste for hearing about Vasudeva, Vasudeva Katharuchi. Syan Mahat Sevaya. Mahat Seva. Mahat Seva means two things. One, you are serving the Mahatma. That's one Mahat Seva. And Mahat Seva, second kind of Mahat Seva, means you're doing great service to that Mahatma. So, you can take your pick. It's better to do great service to a Mahatma. But either way, Syan Mahat Sevaya Syat. You have to have this Mahat Seva. And he defines the various Tikakaras, they define what is this Mahat, who is the Mahatma? Nishpapa, somebody who is completely free from sin. Not this Kathakar professional. He goes home and we don't know what he does at night. He draws a big salary from his katha. He charges a lot of money. Nowadays they have kirtans also. So even in ISKCON, sometimes I see kirtaniyas and they expect a lot of money. Very dangerous. Prabhupada didn't like that. Prabhupada never paid anybody anything for anything. Never. Something to think about at least. So Nishpapa, he has to be freed from sin. And of course, he has to be a devotee. Mahatma is defined in other places in Srimad Bhagavatam, particularly in the 5th canto, and in Bhagavad Gita as well. Satatam kirtayanto ma yatantash chadra havrataha ityadi. So, these are the persons that we have to serve. If we serve such devotees, then we get a taste for hearing, even if we don't have that taste. The question was raised in the previous shloka, 1 through 15. Who will not have a taste for hearing about this? Because the nature of this hearing is that it frees you from karma. You may have a mountain of sinful karma on your head. And it is on your head. Likhidam api lalate pronsitam kahasamartha, Hitopadesh tells us. It's like an indelible barcode written on your forehead. Only devatas can read it. Nobody else sees it. But devatas, do they see it very well? Oh, yeah, here comes a black one. And they know where to send us. Everything is very clear to them. We can only fool each other. And we fool ourselves, unfortunately. But if we recognize our state in this world, our actual position, and we try to hear seriously like this, and hear every day, and hear from the right person, and if you don't have a taste, you serve the person who does have a taste, then you will get the taste. Vasudeva Kataraji Syan Mahatsevaya, through service to the Mahatmas. So this is, you can read Srila Prabhupada's purport to that verse, also very nice. But generally, the 2nd chapter of Canto 1 of Srimad Bhagavatam, it should be memorized, the entire chapter. Because every verse, every single verse in that chapter is very widely quoted by Srila Prabhupada throughout all of his books, and it's quoted by all the acharyas in all their commentaries as well. Every single verse is an important one. It is foundational. If you hear nothing else, if you remember nothing else from Srimad Bhagavatam, please make a careful study of chapter 2, 1st canto, chapter 2, divinity and divine service, because that is the essential process in a nutshell. So these are just a few things we can talk about. We mentioned that we have to hear with faith regularly, and we have to apply that in our daily lives. If we do that, then we become freed from our attachment, our fear, and our anger by practicing the threefold austerity of knowledge. That is to say, the austerity to acquire knowledge, the austerity of applying what we've understood, or following what were the instructions that were given, and the austerity of preaching. And then if we do these things, then we will become purified, and within a very short time, just one lifetime is not very long in the eternal scope of things. In one lifetime, we can see the smiling face of Lord Krishna in our hearts all of the time. Narada Muni says this happened to him. How it happened to him is also described in the 1st canto. We can read that. And he was just a son of a maidservant, not a big, Nambutri or anybody like that. He was just ordinary Dasi Putra. And look who he became, the head of our entire, not only our Sampradaya, Kumar Sampradaya also. He's a major acharya in that line, Narada Muni. So, these are a few things to think about here. I will stop here. I don't know if it's time. You can tell me. Anybody have any questions or any comments on any of this? Not that I'll see you. You'll have to tell me. I lost my glasses, so I can't see anything. Okay, yeah, go ahead. In there?
Summarize.
Yeah, come there.
ചൈതന്യ മഹാപ്രഭുവിന്റെ ശ്ലോകം കൂട്ടിയിട്ട് സ്ഥാനിക്കുന്നത്. അതായത് നമ്മൾ നമ്മുടെ നിലയിൽ ഇരുന്നുകൊണ്ട് തന്നെ നമുക്ക് ഭക്തി പ്രാക്ടീസ് ചെയ്യാം. പക്ഷെ നമ്മൾ ശ്രദ്ധയോട് കൂടി കേൾക്കണം. അതാണ് ഏറ്റവും പ്രധാനപ്പെട്ട കാര്യങ്ങൾ പറയുന്നത്. നമ്മളെപ്പോഴും നിത്യം കേൾക്കുക, അതാണ് ഈ ശ്ലോകത്തിലും പറയണേ. എപ്പോഴും നമ്മള്
Yeah. Turn it off. Band karo.
നമ്മള് നിത്യമായിട്ട് കേൾക്കുക. നിത്യമായിട്ട് കേൾക്കുക. അതുപോലെ അത് നമ്മുടെ ജീവിതത്തിൽ പകർത്തുകയും ചെയ്യണം. അതാണ് ഏറ്റവും ഇമ്പോർട്ടന്റ് ആയിട്ടുള്ള കാര്യം. പിന്നെ അങ്ങനെ നമ്മൾ നിത്യമായിട്ട് കേട്ട് നമ്മുടെ ജീവിതത്തിൽ അത് പ്രാവർത്തികമാക്കുകയാണെന്നുണ്ടെങ്കിൽ ഭഗവാൻ നമ്മുടെ ഹൃദയത്തില് പ്രവേശിക്കുന്നു പറയുന്നത്. ഇപ്പൊ പ്രഭു പറഞ്ഞത് നമ്മുടെ ഹൃദയത്തിൽ, എല്ലാവരുടെയും ഹൃദയത്തിൽ പരമാത്മാവുണ്ട്. പക്ഷെ പരമാത്മാവും ഭഗവാനും രണ്ടും വ്യത്യസ്തമാണ്. അപ്പൊ പരമാത്മാവിനേക്കാൾ ഉപരി ഭഗവാൻ നമ്മുടെ ഹൃദയത്തിലേക്ക് പ്രവേശിക്കാനായിട്ട് നമ്മൾ ഈ നിത്യമായിട്ടുള്ള ആ ഒരു ശ്രവണം നമ്മൾ പ്രാക്ടീസ് ചെയ്യണം എന്ന് പറയുന്നത്. അപ്പൊ അതിന് 3 സ്റ്റെപ്പാണ് പറയുന്നത്: ശ്രവണം, മനനം, നിധിധ്യാസനം. പിന്നെ പറയുന്നത് ഭാഗവതം, ശ്രീമദ് ഭാഗവതം എന്ന് പറയുന്നത് ഭഗവത്ഗീതയുടെ ഒരു എക്സ്പാൻഡഡ് ആയിട്ടുള്ള രൂപമാണ്. അതായത് ഭഗവത്ഗീതയിൽ ഭഗവാൻ എല്ലാം പറയുന്നുണ്ട്, പക്ഷെ അതിനെ കുറച്ചുകൂടി വ്യാപ്തിയിൽ നമുക്ക് മനസ്സിലാക്കി തരുന്നത് ശ്രീമദ് ഭാഗവതത്തിലൂടെയാണ്. പുരുഷാർത്ഥങ്ങളുണ്ട്, ധർമാർത്ഥ കാമ മോക്ഷങ്ങൾ. അതിന്റെ ഏറ്റവും ഉപരി ആ 4 പുരുഷാർത്ഥങ്ങളെക്കാളും ഉപരി വരുന്നതാണ് പ്രേമം എന്ന് പറയുന്നത്. അപ്പോ നമുക്ക് പ്രേമത്തിൽ എത്തണമെന്നുണ്ടെങ്കിൽ 3 കാര്യങ്ങൾ നമ്മൾ തരണം ചെയ്യണം എന്ന് പറയുന്നത്. ഒന്ന് നമ്മളുടെ ഭൗതികമായിട്ടുള്ള ബന്ധനങ്ങൾ, അറ്റാച്ച്മെന്റ്, പിന്നെ നമ്മളുടെ ഭയം, പിന്നെ അതുപോലെ തന്നെ നമ്മുടെ വ്യാകുലതകൾ, ഫ്രസ്ട്രേഷൻസ്. ഇതിനെ 3നെയും നമ്മൾ തരണം ചെയ്യുകയാണെന്നുണ്ടെങ്കിൽ നമുക്ക് ഭാവഭക്തി അല്ലെങ്കിൽ ആ പ്രേമം നമുക്ക് ലഭിക്കും എന്ന് പറയുന്നുണ്ട്. പിന്നെ ഭഗവാൻ പറയുന്നത് ജ്ഞാനം നമ്മള്